Hello and welcome to the KPI Institute's webinar, Improving Business Performance Through Organizational Transformation. My name is Andrei Costa and I will be your host for today, along with our presenter, Andreea Vecerdea. This webinar is part of a series of free educational materials that aim to enhance the knowledge and know-how of those interested, while also creating a bridge between us as a company and you, our public. The KPI Institute is a research organization specialized in business performance. It operates research programs in 12 practice domains, each linked to a certification course, ranging from strategy and KPIs to employee performance, and from customer service to innovation performance. Today, 14 years after the KPI Institute was created, we can proudly say that our products have reached professionals in 5 continents and that our public comprises a worldwide community of 73,000 members online and 28,000 registered companies on smartkpis.com. In today's webinar, you will discover what an organizational transformation process consists of and what are the steps to be taken for a proper implementation. It will be delivered by Andreea Vecerdea, Chief Operating Officer at the KPI Institute. Andreea manages initiatives and oversees operational effectiveness initiatives that improve operation execution at all levels. She also manages the day-to-day efforts of the team to ensure a high level of responsiveness and efficiency in achieving our strategic goals. As a consultant, Andreea holds valuable experience in performance management as she was responsible for supervising and maintaining the functionality of the performance management system implemented across our entire company. She reviewed a number of performance management architectures while also being part of performance management implementation projects for international clients. This presentation lasts between 20 to 40 minutes. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have during the presentation, as they will be answered at the end of it in our Q&A session. Enjoy the KPI Institute's webinar, Improving Business Performance Through Organizational Transformation. Now, I would like to invite Andreea to begin her presentation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm happy to be again with you. As Andrei said, today's webinar focuses on organizational transformation. I've chosen this topic because it has become very popular nowadays and of an increased importance for organizations. And I can discuss about this topic both from us as a consultant point of view, me being involved in such projects, and also from the client point of view, because as a chief operation officer, this is something I strive day by day in the organization to improve its current processes, improving the projects, and enabling in the end the achievement of the strategic objectives of the organization. I wanted from the beginning to excuse myself because I have a little bit of a cold, and I might cough from time to time. So if I'm going to mute myself, it's because I don't want to disturb you with my cough. Just like now. So this being said, let's start. As Andrei said, the agenda for today focuses around some key concepts around organizational transformation, and then on the process of how to implement this organizational transformation in organizations, and how the performance management system in the end supports this initiative. By the end of the webinar, you should be able to acknowledge the importance of this process in the current business context, to have more clarified the components of the organizational transformation, and also to have a more standardized step-by-step approach of what it takes to go through such an implementation. Now, I'm pretty sure that all of you know what organizational transformation is all about. Maybe you are even in the process of such transformations, or you plan to make such a transformation. As I said, it has become a very popular topic these days as a means for organizations to reach a new state of development. Driven by performance, companies are looking for new opportunities to revamp themselves, and the organizational transformation, by having a very integrated approach to business performance, has become a feasible solution to this organization's needs. So basically, it's the process of directing the organization from an as-is to a to-be state by modifying the way the organization operates. And depending on the organization needs, this way of the way the organization operates may refer to processes, projects, maybe employees, maybe an approach to suppliers, to customers. It all depends on each and every organization. But the idea behind the entire process is the same. You are trying to modify what you're doing now in order to do better in the future. Now, what drives organizational transformation? We identified four, let's say, major factors. The first one, of course, has to do with globalization, because to survive in the current business environment, many companies need to cultivate new overseas markets, global supply chains, or any other changes. And this brings new challenges of identifying and addressing factors arising from different cultures, coming along with the pressure of harsh competition, as lowering the entry costs on some markets makes it easier for new companies to enter the market, but in the same time harder to maintain the others' position on the market. So this permanent competition between companies may be a factor to drive a change. Then sustainability. Nowadays, there is this need for organizations to become sustainable, to be socially and environmentally responsible, friendly, and to consider to have a contribution to the society. So this is another aspect that transformation may have into account. Then the socio-economic development, and through this I refer to the current changes happening in our lifestyles, demographic changes, but also economic pressures that are changing the way and the value customers place on different types of products and services. So organizations need to adapt their offering to products and services in response to this changing client demand. And another factor, of course, technology, because keeping the pace with this digitalization era can prove to be quite of a challenge. Therefore, we see now organizations investing in BI solutions to improve the way they currently operate. Of course, there can be other factors. These are just four the most commonly, let's say, identified in organizations. A survey conducted by KPMG identified three triggers for transformation. One is customer demand, as I was mentioning earlier, changes in customer focus, the buying preferences, then the competition, and in the third one, the technology. Now, what's interesting about the survey is that more and more companies are having some sorts of changes in their business models, and around 30% of companies assume having started the implementation of a transformation. 37% they are planning to have a transformation initiative. There are another 17% who have completed at least one major transformation initiative, and with 14% companies who have completed several major transformation initiatives. So we see that there is an increasing interest, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the webinar, of organizations to invest in this change. As it helps them to improve their current performance. As you've seen, technology is an important factor, and another survey developed by the one from Fujitsu around digital transformation says that around 90% of organizations are either planning, testing, or implementing such a change. And the progress comes up with the following percentages. 34% outcomes have been delivered, 33% they are still implementing, and 24% are testing. And as a functional focus of this digital transformation, with 38% the marketing department and activities, with 35% the entire work style. So the client or the customer changing preferences, the changing lifestyle we have impacts not only the customer point of view, but also us as employees, because we have a different work style. Then with 30% operation and maintenance, and with 20% the call center area. Of course, digital transformation can affect in a positive way other departments as well. The idea is that each organization has to identify, at least for the beginning, the areas it requires most support, and then to progress with the others. Okay, coming back to organizational transformation itself. Now there are a series of concepts. So when we discuss about organizational transformation, we certainly discuss about the current state of the organization. So the current status quo, where the organization is at the moment, how it operates, and this is the starting point of the change. And then we discuss about the strategy. So vision, mission, values, strategic objectives. If there are any in place, they have to be reviewed. If there are no objectives, if there is no strategy in place, it has to be developed. And then with yellow, I've pointed out what needs to be acted on and what needs to be changed in the organization to make the change occur. And first of all, we have processes, policies, and procedures. So how we operate. Then we have systems and technology. Again, it comes this idea of technology, of having everything integrated in a certain rigorous system and integrated technology. Then projects. It's very important to have all the projects of the organization in one single document to ensure visibility on what's happening in the organization, who's working on what resources are invested, and what's their benefit. And of course, least but not last, the people side. The employees, their behavior, and this is from our practice something that it's the most difficult part to change. It's very difficult to change the mindset, the culture of your organization, and for this you have to invest a lot in communicating with employees the need of the change, the benefits of change for them. I mean, what's in it for me each employee has to be very convinced to accept the change, that this transformation will improve the way he or she does his work, and by accepting this change, they can contribute better. And of course, in the end, reaching the desired state, having organizational alignment, having this change sustainable in time. So now that we've done this process, we've developed the plan, we've done some initiatives, and then we forget about everything. No, it has to be a sustainable effort in time, and to ensure continuous improvement. Again, it's not enough just to have some initiatives done. At some point, they have to be reviewed and acted on in order to increase and to reach in the end their set objectives. Now the four yellow main pillars from here, I've put it as 4 pillars. So what you need to act, as I said, what you need to address in the organization. And I said technology, I said processes, I said projects, and people. And here I've made some more clarifications about the people transformation, because, as I said, it's the most difficult part, and it includes several dimensions. So if you look at the performance culture, you have to invest in performance management. If you look at the talent development, then you need to invest in coaching and mentoring and job scheduling and training to improve the current skills and competencies level of employees. If we talk about talent retention, then you need to invest in career planning and succession planning to ensure your employees remain with you. And of course, there's also the employer branding, which has to do with the organizational culture, which is something that comes from the inside of the organization, but it has an impact on the outside of the organization, because the employer branding comes, it's external, and if you work of developing this branding, it's with a very relevant impact also on the customer side. So these are the 4 pillars we identify so far as being essential for rolling out the organizational transformation process. Now, what it takes to implement this organizational transformation, as I said, you start from a current state, you wish to have a desired state, and there are still things you have to do. Of course, you have to make that plan and to ensure a transition phase. Now, what's the prerequisite for this? The prerequisite would be to answer to some questions, to identify if it's the proper moment for you as an organization to make this change. So why should I as an organization go through this process of transformation? This is the first question I have to answer. Then what should be changed to drive the transformation? What are these 4, so from these 4 pillars, what needs to be changed? I mean, in the first place, technology, do I need to invest in people? Do I need to map and revamp processes? Do I need to invest in project management? So what should be changed? Then when should these changes occur? Where? So where they should take place? At some departments across the entire organization. Who should be involved in the transformation process? So until which level do I cascade this transformation? It has to involve top management, the divisions, the departments, all the employees, and of course, in the end, how should this transformation process be implemented? And if you have this all answered, then you can go to making the plan. So if your answer is yes to these questions, and you know what and where and when and who has to be involved, then it's a good starting point. Here there is a more detailed overview of the process of this transformation. So how you reach from the current stage to the desired state. You have to start by making some analysis. Then you have to evaluate and redesign your current strategy, and then to implement the plan, to ensure a constant monitoring, to readjust if the case, to renew, and to ensure sustainability and continuous improvement. To ensure effective and sustainable results, there must be this transition during which the required changes are introduced, are tested, understood, and accepted. So change management becomes key at this point as a means to support both the organization and the individuals within the organization to go through this change as they plan, and to make the transition from the present state to the future state. And I will take them one by one to explain you in more details what I want to say through all these steps. So first of all is the analysis. This analysis may include a 360-degree of the organization. So we have to look at the financial analysis, the records from previous years. What are your current financial results? Then you have to look at the people analysis, talent profile, competencies levels, performance, retention levels, engagement, satisfaction, tenure. Then you have to look at a processes analysis to see if you have processes mapped within the organization to ensure quality. You have to analyze your projects, current projects, who is in charge, what are the investments done so far. A client analysis, client profile, markets, profits generated. Then a suppliers analysis, supplier profile, SLAs established, and so on. And all these areas of the organization can be done by a gap analysis to identify where are you now and what you expect. So if you have a current level of customer satisfaction, to make the analysis of what is your current level and where a customer want you to be. So customer expectation versus customer perception. Then you may do this SWOT and PESTEL analysis. They are quite common analysis to analyze the internal environment. So, of course, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as well as the external environment of the organization, the political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal factors that may impact the organization. Then there is a stakeholders analysis done to ensure that each stakeholder is aware of his or her responsibilities and they work towards achieving the expected results. And we usually use the READJUST metrics, the responsible, accountable, support, consulted, informed. We try to identify for each of these layers the stakeholders relevant. And we also use the audit as a comprehensive tool to assess the current state of the performance management system. Across all this comes up risk, because risk is I mean it can happen in all areas. They can be internal and external, and while the internal ones are easier to mitigate because they refer to the way the company operates, the external ones are harder to mitigate because they are out of the company's control. So you have to develop and to put in place a good mitigation plan to act in case of risk occurrence. So also this risk assessment analysis needs to be done. Coming back to the audit, I was saying that we usually perform such an audit at the organization at the first stage of analysis to identify what is the current state of their performance management system. Our audit focuses on 5 key practice domains, from strategy planning to performance measurement, performance management, to performance culture, and to employee performance management. And by having this integrated performance maturity model, we identify gaps between maturity levels and provide guidance on how those gaps can be closed. So it's not just a gap analysis, it's an extensive audit conducted through analysis of the documents of the organization, through surveys, through interviews, and in the end, the audit it's conducted. And we can see this audit as a tool to implement changes in a structured manner to shift the organization from one maturity level to another. And I've put it on the right side, the 5 levels of maturity from initial to optimized that the organization can reach in their performance management system. Now, usually organizations are at a emergent or structured level. This is an output of the survey we conducted last year. And this is the answers we've got from organizations, which let's say confirms our practice of performing audits within organizations and having such results, that companies usually have their current performance management systems at an emergent or structural level, and this is let's say the main reason why we get involved in supporting organizations with improving their current performance management levels, because acting on the performance management system, then it helps improving the entire business performance. So this is one initiative of organizational transformation that companies are taking very seriously these days, because they've understood the importance of having a clear strategy, of having clearly identified their objectives, their KPIs, their targets, having accountable persons for them, very important, having persons that assume ownership on these targets and that strive towards reaching them. So in this context, the performance management system becomes a very important component of organizational transformation. Sorry. Okay, so once we've done the analysis, the next step was to evaluate and redesign the strategy. So I was saying that in case the strategy exists, it has to be evaluated and redesigned. We have to see if our current vision, mission, and values are still the ones that we want to maintain for the future, or if there are changes that we want to make in order to support the organizational transformation process. In case there is no strategy in place, because the company has an emergent level of an emerging maturity level, then they have to be developed. And the tool we are using to structure this strategy, it's called desired state of evolution. So we we identify the company mission and values. This is at the bottom of everything. So why the organization exists and what are the values it believes in. Then what are the value drivers, the key successful factors it accounts on in order to reach its desired state in the future. Then you set up your desired state, what you want to achieve, where you want to be. And this is, let's say, this is done by having some key goals. So what you want to achieve by having 2 or 3 major areas of focus. And these 2 or 3 areas of focus help you in the end achieve your vision, which is at the top of everything. So how you do this step from mission to vision, it's basically transposed into the strategy. So how you are doing this step from mission to vision by making some actions, and these actions are basically your objectives. You need to act on something in order to achieve in the end your final goal. You cannot just transform the organization from one day to another. There is a long and thorough process, and for this it's like the elephant. You cannot eat it, the elephant by itself, because it's huge, but if you cut it by piece, then it's doable. So the same happens with a strategy. You cannot just set a vision and let's see how we're going to fix it. You have to set clearly objectives to help you in this effort. And for this, we use a strategy map. The strategy map has on the left part the perspectives. Here are some the classical 4 balanced scorecard perspectives, but of course there can be other perspectives depending on the company specific. Then it has some themes, relevant areas of focus, and then the objectives. And very important, the strategy map highlights the interconnectivity between these objectives, and how objective after objective supports the achievement in the end of your goal. So this is how we map the strategy to make it more visual and more clear on what needs to be acted on. And it's very helpful, trust me, to have in one single page visualize your strategy. Instead of having a report with thousands of pages and paragraphs of what we need to achieve and how and so on, it's much more useful and visual, and also in the communication it helps a lot to have this visual tool of translating in the end your strategy to the others. Now, of course, depending on the objective of your organizational transformation process, this strategy map can look totally different. If you want to focus on organizational transformation process of I don't know, let's say launching a new product, then you'll definitely have an entirely developed map with objectives only for that part, because a good advice is to focus just one time at a moment. So if you want to do several improvements in your business, it's better to start with one, and then once you are in the last phase of implementation and the initiative is ongoing, then you can move to the next one, because otherwise you're going to spread your resources into too many directions, and that's not a good thing for to do. Okay, and here I've put two examples of organizational transformation plans to see that organizations do such things. So, first of all, you identify your perspective or your team. In this case, the Energy Networks Australia identified customer-oriented electricity. So it should be the customer perspective from my strategy map. Then you identify your objective, what you want to achieve, improve trust with customers, networks provide service platform. And then the initiatives you make to support the achievement of these objectives, because an important thing to do to ensure objectives achievement is to implement initiatives to support those objectives. And of course, to have the spanning time. I mean, to have a timeline of how and when these initiatives will happen. This is one thing. And the second thing is to set up milestones. So as we use KPIs to measure objectives performance, objectives achievement, we use milestones to measure the achievement of the initiative set. And we as an organization, we have this standard of naming milestones in the same way the ones from Energy Networks from Australia do. By, and you set up a date, something needs to be done. And you set such milestones for every initiative to ensure progress, because otherwise, again, if we just set, okay, we need to orient ourselves towards customers, okay, but how we do this? Well, we have to have by 2018 a new network customer engagement to have a credible process in place. And how we do is we implement engagement forms, we develop surveys, we segment customers. So what you have to do by steps. Having this step-by-step approach is a very important thing to do, not only what in terms of this organization transformation process, but also as something to be done in organizations' activities day by day. Having this step-by-step approach is very, very useful. Okay, so this is what they've done here. So they've set milestones in time to support the achievement of these initiatives. That's an example from Energy Networks Australia. Now, the second example comes from the government of KSA. They've they've identified 5 phases. For instance, the first one, identify the challenges faced by each government entity towards fulfilling the 2020 strategy, and then the details, more detailed explanation of each of this phase. And then after they've said, I mean, this can be seen as objectives, challenges faced, developing initiatives, an implementation plan, transparency, and then auditing and continuous improvement, and the details of this. And the second step, as I said, for each objective to establish initiatives. And in their case, they've identified initiatives for each ministry. And for instance, in this case, the Ministry of Economy and Planning, they set in place 20 initiatives. They've allocated costs, they've detailed everything so that they know in a very thorough approach what needs to be done, by when, what are the costs involved, and who is in charge of this initiative. Okay. So we've done the plan. We assessed our need. We've conducted all the possible analysis. Then we developed a plan. We developed the strategy we need to follow, and then it follows the implementation itself. And here, the implementation, then every company implements what it has established as a main focus, either to introduce new tools, new software, new technology, either to focuses on the current processes to map or remap their processes, to launch new products, as I said, to redesign the brand, to focus on the people, to train employees, to introduce a reward scheme, an engagement scheme. So the implementation of the transformation plan in itself. Now, this may last from several weeks to several months, depending on the importance of what are you trying to change. As I said, if technology project processes may be easier to change, the people side, it takes more time. However, regardless of the pillar you are working on to improve and to change, very important is the communication. I mentioned earlier as well how you communicate this change, why it's important for employees to adopt the change, because the first thing they will do, they will resist to the change. They will say they don't need to do things differently that they are doing. So this is important to identify process map of communication, to identify steps again of converting the big picture into clear messages to be communicated, then to map what types of information has to get to different categories of stakeholders, externally and internally, to develop a communication policy, a communication plan. This is the core part, let's say, the communication plan, because here you're going to identify the effective actions you are going to take, live meetings, emails, forums, website, biannual meetings, so on. And again, a second very important thing, to keep track of these communication initiatives by monitoring their progress. And here I've made a more visual representation of what I've just said previously. So we need to identify what kind of information goes to the external stakeholders and through which channels. So website reports, press releases, meetings, and to the internal stakeholders to communicate with stakeholders at the first, second, third level with all employees, and what are the means you choose to do so. You make posters, you make video doodles, you make newsletters, you add a new section on the intranet blog, you make a group, you have face-to-face meetings, you have committees of practice, and so on. And in the end, it's very important to have a survey to take feedback from employees to make sure that these changes that are happening are well perceived, well understood, and accepted. Because all this contributes to buy-in. If employees are not convinced that the change they are doing is a benefit for them, they will not take part at it, and this will make harder the entire process of organizational transformation. So this is more or less I wanted to say about the communication. Okay, so you are implementing the process. Then the next thing is to monitor and evaluate. So you've defined your objectives, you defined your KPIs and targets, initiatives. As I said, for each objective, you need to have in place initiatives in order to ensure objectives are reached. The tool we are using currently to ensure this is the scorecard. A scorecard basically takes the strategic objectives from the strategy map and adds KPIs and targets to those KPIs to ensure that objectives will be met. Again, based on each transformation initiative, this scorecard can differ. It can have other perspectives, several other objectives and KPIs. The idea is to have, again, everything tracked in one single tool to ensure visibility and accountability. That's the scorecard. A second tool we are using is a dashboard. The dashboard is more, let's say, operating tool. So the scorecard is a more strategic tool, and the dashboard is more operational. And it focuses on more granular aspects. I mean, if you set in your scorecard an objective of, as was that example from Australia networks, of having a better customer approach, having satisfied employee customers. Then in the scorecard, you're going to monitor just 2 KPIs, customer satisfaction, let's say, and complaints or positive reviews, something like this. But in the dashboard, you're going to monitor more granular what you are doing on a daily basis to have this result in the scorecard. In this case, in terms of the customer, if you respond on time to customer requests, how long does it take you to respond if you resolve their complaints or requests from their first call or email or point of contact. So this kind of KPIs, more granular, are tracked in dashboard. It has also a more visual approach. It uses mostly graphs to see from a single view results and to act upon it faster. And the third tool is the portfolio of initiatives. As I said, each objective has to have in place clear identified initiatives. And in this way, we ensure that we work towards achieving that objective. So if my objective through this organizational transformation process is to increase my customer satisfaction or to launch a new product, then I will make sure that I will be involved in initiatives and I will invest my resources, both in terms of time, money, and people, towards working in those directions. And as a side note, each initiative can be further detailed into milestones to ensure the achievement of these initiatives. We use all these tools to have a step-by-step approach, as I said, and a more rigorous approach towards what's happening. Because it's not enough to have developed a plan. Maybe you've done the best plan, the best organizational transformation plan ever, but if the implementation itself, it lacks tools, it lacks involvement, then it's not much. Then you have to readjust and review. And renew in the case to change. Once you have this monitoring done, there might be some areas, some initiatives, maybe some actions you've done that need to be done differently, and this will impact all the other sides you are doing, processes, policies, systems, technologies, or on the other side, the people part, the culture and behavior. So if you are currently doing an initiative of increasing your customer satisfaction level, and then after you review your KPI, you see that it's not working, it's not you are reaching the target results you are aiming, then you might make an analysis and see what happens, what we are not doing okay, and what we need to do differently. So at this type of readjustment I refer. And of course, every change made at some point has consequences and cascades back and down to all the other components. In the end, the last part refers to sustainability and continuous improvement. As I said, the key focus for ensuring success is to identify key resources within the organization to support a development and implementation of a sustainability plan over time to ensure ongoing progress. So we don't enough to make some changes or to take some initiatives one at a time and that's all. No, we need to make them over and over to have an ongoing effort towards ensuring sustainability and towards ensuring a continuous improvement. And this is done through performance monitoring and through the implementation of effective preventive but also corrective measures if the case. And this will reach us in the end to our desired state, to our to the scope of our organizational transformation plan. So this is more or less the process you need to go once you identify the need of organizational transformation. And you think that this is the moment when you have to do this. Make this analysis, make the plan, implement the plan, very important, monitor it, constantly review it, and make it sustainable in time. And I want to wrap up with just 2 words on some, of course, known success stories of organizational transformation models of business in itself that make 2 of the very popular companies nowadays what they are nowadays. The first one is Netflix. I'm sure you've heard about it. Before transformation, the organization was just delivering DVDs more cheaply via online ordering and US mail delivery. The video entertainment company shifted dramatically along its business and delivery models, becoming nowadays an original content provider. Starting 2007, the organization introduced on-demand streaming, and starting 2013, it added original content, which led to its current success. So now its core business changed from just renting DVDs to offer them as a bundle with streaming, as they do nowadays. This change is accountable for 88% of their sales. While of course it's expensive to do what they're doing of having original content on their TV series and movies, this is an entirely new business, and it's very profitable, and it made them grow from 1 country to nearly 200 in just some years. So they shifted their entire business model, not only some parts of their business. They've launched a new line of business, and in time they've focused more on this new product than on their core, let's say, product from the beginning. And the second one is Apple. Of course, I'm sure you also know about it, because it's at the beginning they were mostly focused on hardware. Computer business. Now it branched the leading digital music device and content company it is today. So Apple repositioned basically the Mac platform as the hub for all these devices that build and made Apple the world's largest content ecosystem. So they've introduced iPhones, iTunes, App Store, and they moved again their entire model from the hardware business to the digital content. And of course, it is a manufacturer of computers with hundreds of the components, but the newly introduced product, iPhone, iPad, and the entire ecosystem surrounding these products are not accountable for 80% of the company's sales. So again, by making this change from the current products to launching other products, in the end, they've made them reorient completely on this new product they've launched. Of course, we don't need to make such dramatic changes, and I can assure that even small changes on our current way of operating our business, it's benefic for the organization. Regardless, we choose the technology pillar, the processes, the projects, or the people one. So to wrap up, I can only hope that if you are in the process of organizational transformation, you have a bit more clear the entire process and what you need to pay more attention. And in case you haven't considered yet organizational transformation as an opportunity for the company to revamp itself, then you might consider starting today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Andrea. And we already have a first question. In your pillars section, someone asked, why is process one of the pillars and not policy?
Okay, let me go back to that. I think it's here. So the idea is that I incorporated so from the let's say the yellow part where I put a single line processes, policies, and procedures. I've just concentrated all the three in just one in process, because if you change the process, then it incorporates the other changes of policies and procedures and product flows and the entire communication. So they are included. So the policies and procedures are included along the processes. Just that I mentioned the process as a key component, as a key pillar, but the others are also there.
All right, thank you very much for your answer. We'll be waiting a few moments in case anyone has any other question. All right, it seems no one has any other further questions. That brings us to the end of the Q&A and the end of the webinar. Andrea, do you have any last words for our listeners?
I just want to thank our audience for being with us today. And as I said, I can only hope that if you are not yet in the process of implementing these initiatives of organizational transformation, you may consider starting at least one initiative from today. And for the others who are in the process of implementing such initiatives, I can only wish them a lot of success. in their strive on improving their current performance and of reaching their desired results. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you very much once again for your presentation. The KPI Institute appreciates your interest in the webinar Improving Business Performance Through Organizational Transformation. Follow our websites and our social media channels to find out more details about our next webinars when they get posted. Also, if you're interested in getting a certification granted by the KPI Institute on vital areas within the performance management discipline, you can explore our scheduled courses on marketplace.kpiinstitute.org. Thank you once again for your participation. We wish you the best of performance and have a nice day.